Uncle Dan.
Hello, yes? Question?
There's that old saying that everything old is new again.
Including that saying.
And I think it's 50% completely true and 50% utter bullshit. And I think it's because both sides, right? And so I want to see if Uncle Doug can prove one of those two suppositions I've just created in a certain singularity.
I am up to the challenge. So,
all right. Wow. Great.
Well, dear uncles, we often talk about on this show about how history is crowded with dead gods and the religions they represented.
Sure.
And how about in our world seemingly dominated by only a handful of major religions, there's an abundance of tiny sects, both ancient and new, in often surprising places. Today's subject, however, is about a major religion that through concerted effort by pretty much everybody is no longer with us, but that once stretched
Scientology.
I wish.
It's on death's door, but it's still here.
This religion once stretched from the Atlantic coast of France to the Pacific coast of China, from North Africa to the Central Asian steppe. It was
That's
pretty
not
much
small. That's a large bit of land.
Teeny tiny.
Yeah, it's a huge tract of land.
It was pretty much present at every major inflection point from the 3rd to the 13th centuries. And if any one of 1,000 events had played out just a little bit differently, world history would have played out very differently as well. I guess that's true of pretty much anything in history, right?
You're talking about the religious butterfly effect.
Right. However, that's not what happened, and by the 14th century, one of the world's greatest religions died alone and lonely in China. So today let's talk about the rise and fall of Manicheism. Pronouncement disclaimer, I'm going to say a bunch of words from Persian Manicheism to ancient Jewish Gnosticism, to Tibetan Buddhism, to Mongolian shamanism, and I'm going to say them wrong. Unless you are in fact an ancient Gnostic Jew or a 13th century Mongol raider, leave me alone.
And also, just leave me alone.
Just leave me alone.
And if you're not one of those, also please leave me alone.
Right.
So Manicheism is based on the extensive teachings of one man, Mani.
Oh,
I know.
Really?
Yeah, just one dude named Manny, and that's the whole name of the religion.
Manny down at the tire shop.
Exactly, you know Manny.
Yeah. Oh, sure. He's great.
Victor's brother.
Yeah.
That guy, he will change your flat in no time, and he will start a religion without you even batting an eye.
Like 10,000 years ago. He's amazing.
Oh, God. This is such a tangent, but you just got me thinking about there's a place in Salt Lake called Victor's Tire Shop.
Yeah.
That is a literal like Mexican tire shop with a little taqueria. And you can order the tacos where you like get your where you pay for your tires.
And it's really good.
The tacos are so good. I'm so desperate for that place to get back open so I can go visit.
It's really good.
How are the tires?
Tires are mediocre.
A little salty.
Manichaeism was based on the pardon me, let me back up. Mani was a Persian born in 216 Seleucia Ctesiphon in modern-day Iraq. His parents were members of a small Jewish Christian Gnostic sect called either Elkasiites or Elsasiites, not sure which.
Okay.
Mani believed that Gautama Buddha, Krishna, Zoroaster, and Jesus were all divine, but their teachings were incomplete. He believed in the life of Jesus, especially because if it actually happened, he was just stone's throw away and only a couple centuries late. But he believed that most of the story was mystical rather than literal. His main theological preoccupation was the problem of evil. His theology would become strongly dualistic, teaching that the universe was in a war between good and evil, light and dark, that God was good but not totally omnipotent, and that he was opposed by a nearly equal power of darkness or the devil. This battle raged all around us and within us. Flesh was not intrinsically evil, but possessed by portions of the light or portions of the dark. This cosmic struggle that raged around us manifested itself in violent weather and natural disasters.
Was Jesus' last name in this theology Skywalker? Because I'm starting to hear similarities.
It's kind of funny because it's not that far off.
Tomorrow is May 4th, guys.
That's true.
Yeah.
Mani wrote at least 7 books in several languages, including a later variety of Aramaic called Syriac and a Middle Persian language called Pahlavi. See above disclaimer. These books made it the very complicated cosmogony of Manichaeism, which reads more like an ancient Middle Eastern Game of Thrones. Nothing but fragments of the original work exist, and what we know is based on either other accounts or oral traditions. However, like I said, it borrowed heavily from all of the major and minor religions of its place and time. There was an extensive creation story with wars and betrayal and drama, all of it predating the creation of Adam and Eve. The spirit of Jesus himself was sent to awaken Adam and teach him about the light and the dark. So there's your Jesus Skywalker. I guess maybe Jesus Kenobi. It's very dense, and like all mythology, it's a complete mess. But the gist of it is that this reality wasn't necessarily created on purpose, and it wasn't created by God, who now wages a universe-wide war with the forces of darkness that we must also wage within ourselves. The ending is not written, and we are the masters of our own fate. This notion...
Okay, this is a clear improvement on the monotheism of the time.
You could call it that. I mean, it's and as we'll see, it's not without its problems, but it is an interesting way to deal with the problem of evil, right? Instead of an all-powerful, knowing God, that then we have to square the circle of why there's plagues.
Right.
We have a God in a pitched battle, a good God in a pitched battle with evil, which is why good and bad things happen. Well, there's that.
So it's like deism a little bit.
It's kind of deistic, yep.
Yeah.
And I am pleased to understand I am only scratching the surface of this religion. This notion that man can elevate himself and then the dualistic nature of the faith would prove to be its undoing, as it tried through battle with more fatalistic authoritarian religions throughout history. The Manichean church was very highly organized. It was divided into two main groups, the elect, or clergy, and the hearers, or the lay people. The elect was led by a supreme type leader with 12 apostles, 72 bishops, and 360 presbyters. The elect were forbidden from drinking alcohol and eating meat and could not harvest crops or prepare food. Harvesting was considered murder of plants, so the hearers would harvest and prepare the food for the elect, who would then in turn forgive them for that very act.
Oh, my God.
As with every religion in history.
Getting a little intense there.
Yeah, it quite literally pays to be on the payroll. So, they had a very complex set of rituals. The hearers had to pray 4 times a day, while the elect had to pray 7 times a day. During the prayers, they would do 12 burpees. Kind of not kidding. They had to prostrate 12 times during their prayers, they had to prostrate themselves and then get back up.
So it was kind of like the Islamic.
They're
get all the way upright.
It was CrossFit.
All the way upright. Yeah. Yeah, it's totally CrossFit. During the day, they would face the sun. At night, they would face the moon. And if the moon were not visible, they would face north when they prayed.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sure, why not?
Why not? Manichaeism, like Christianity, was
People
an evangelistic...
just want a direction. Just pick a direction. They don't really care.
Now, we have every direction but south now. Manichaeism, like Christianity, was an evangelistic faith, and Mani and his early followers worked very hard to sell their new religion, and they did so with remarkable speed. Within a few short years, it had spread to Rome and Western Europe, and was a strong influence when in 312 Constantine converted to Christianity. Here's one of the many points in the story where there is at least the possibility that the world could have rolled out very differently had one tiny thing been altered. It seems that Christianity was more of a presence in Rome, in the Roman Empire in 312, but Manichaeism was definitely the flavor of the month. Had Constantine decided that Manichaeism suited his strategic needs more than Christianity, it's impossible to contemplate how different our modern world would be. But alas...
I think you mean, had the Lord not told Constantine the truth about Jesus,
Correction accepted.
Okay.
Yeah. But alas, he didn't, and Manichaeism would begin to contend with the violent forces that would, over the next 10 centuries, extinguish it from the face of the earth. Mani was the first to suffer this fate when he ran afoul of Zoroastrian clergy in Persia and was put to death in 276 or 277. In the late 3rd century, Christians would spin a tale of Emperor Diocletian, uniquely persecuting Christians by throwing them to lions and setting them on fire. It appears that these accounts have been at least exaggerated.
Yeah, we've talked about him on the show quite a bit before. Yeah,
Or
the Diocletian terror.
Yeah, it's possible that these stories were actually conflated with the Manichaeans, towards whom Diocletian lived up to his legend. In 296, Diocletian decreed that all Manichaean leaders be burnt alive on piles of their own scriptures.
Whoa!
Wow.
Yeah, that's something, isn't it?
That's gilding the lily, man. Just
right.
Yeah.
Just kill him. You don't have to get all flowery about it.
Okay, I get it. You're proving your point.
You want to burn the books, you want to burn the people.
Right.
Can it be both?
After years of persecution, the moment that Christians got some power, they immediately demanded that the Roman Emperor Theodosius I strip Manichaeans of their civil rights, which he happily did. But Theodosius didn't stop there, and by 382, he issued a decree for the death of all Manichaean priests.
Jesus.
Fun fact, St. Augustine of Hippo spent 10 years as a Manichaean before converting to Christianity in 387.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
What?
Yeah.
Augustine.
St. Augustine was a Manichaean before converting directly to Christianity. And this was at least convenient, as Theodosius had issued his death warrant only a few years earlier and would go on to declare Christianity the only religion of Rome in 391, just a couple years later. So it is thought, therefore, by some that Augustine's conversion was not as sincere as he made it out to be. And although he became a strong enemy of Manichaeism, it seems as though he injected a ton of Manichaean teachings into the early Christian church. So it's a little bit dense to go into here, but the dualism of St. Augustine kind of comes from his Manichaean background.
That's so fascinating because he's one of the kind of the architects of hell, right? He's one of the proponents, early church proponents of hell, and he was just a terrible shitbag in a lot of other ways. So one wonders, if those were, now I have to look into it. Thanks.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
The Roman persecution in that area was so effective that Manichaeism virtually disappeared from Western Europe in the 5th century, pardon me, and from most of Eastern Europe by the 6th. However, it managed to last for some centuries in several small pockets of Mesopotamia, Africa, Spain, France, northern Italy, and the Balkans before being extinguished. It also did quite well in the Uyghur region of Central Asia, with Khagan Boku Tekin, the leader of the Uyghur Khaganate, joining the religion, effectively making it the state religion until the fall of the Khaganate in 840. So it was a massive influence in Central Asia. It survived for a short...
It's easy to make up words, Doug.
No, it's not. Think, like read the Book of Mormon. You can't make up those names.
No, that's true. That's a good point.
It can't be done. It's like literally not a possible thing.
Manichaeism did survive alongside the booming new religion of Islam for a time, especially since they shared a geographic point of origin. However, Islam decided to earn its reputation for not getting along with other religions early on, and concerted efforts were undertaken in the Islamic world to stomp out Manichaeism as early as 780. But for a short time, during the life of Muhammad and directly after his death, Manichaeism had a chance to hold off its new regional competitor, but Islam was designed for conquest and Manichaeism was not. It had its day in Tibet in the 8th and 9th centuries before being uprooted and fully replaced by Tibetan Buddhism, and it survived in the Central Asian steppes until the Mongol invasions of the 13th century. And although Genghis Khan was crazy tolerant of religious freedom, Manichaeism did not flourish under the Mongols. It appears as though it made its last stand in China until it was officially banned by the Ming Dynasty in 1370. And that
these guys, they can't catch a fucking break.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
And that was that for one of the world's largest religions, as it seems that Mani had set out to design a religion that borrowed heavily from all religions around it in order to please all those religions. He succeeded in creating a religion that nobody wanted. As it became associated with idolatry and dualism, some people were accused of being Manichaeans and burned for it during the Inquisition, although they were almost certainly false charges. The destruction of Manichaeism was so total that only one fully intact Manichaean temple still exists in China, in the whole world. There are several small groups that claim to carry on some part of the Manichaean tradition, but it's become so infused and kind of hard to differentiate from Buddhism that no one can prove them right or wrong. One thing is for certain, Manichaeism was one of the largest and most widespread religions in history. It was a viable competitor for every other major religion of the time and those that have survived to ours. Had it managed to fend off the rise of Islam or outpace Chinese Buddhism or find favor with just one Roman emperor or one Khan, we would be living in a very different world. But
interesting.
I'm not going to say it would be a better one. There's nothing really within Manichaeism to make me think it would have been a better alternative to the religions it lost to, but it sure would be different. I'm sure we would still have a podcast, but instead of inveighing against Jehovah or Muhammad or Joseph Smith, we'd probably be bitching about the King of Glory or the 12 Virgins of Light or the Keeper of Splendor.
The keeper of splendor. You know, you guys remember that Seinfeld episode where there was like a Pakistani restaurant in the neighborhood, and he went in there, and the guy was struggling, and he's like, you know what you should do? You should serve all cuisines. And so remember that? And then the guy tried to like have Chinese, Pakistani, Mexican, Hawaiian,
right?
And it was just a catastrophe, like even worse.
Right.
And it kind of sounds like what Manny tried to pull off there, huh?
Yeah, I think so.
A little bit of this, a little bit of that, and pretty soon it's just a hot mess.
Yeah, and I think one of the only upsides is that apparently through concerted effort, religions can be made to disappear. Just please don't tell anyone with a German accent or a MAGA hat.
Right.
So that's it. The major world religion that is entirely extinct.
I think I remember a revival of it that happened somewhere in the 1980s, though.
I'm sure.
They tried to bring it back with Andrew McCarthy and Kim Cattrall, right? Oh, that's...
I'm totally lost.
Manicheism.
Oh, my God. I'm like, what the fuck are you actually talking about? Well, you know that we talked about the Zoroastrians a little bit. Same region, right? They came out of Persia and looked like they were going to be it for a while, and now they're down to, I think there's tens of thousands left in the world, but not many more than that. So,
you know, for such an amazingly powerful region and civilization, those Persians didn't make anything stick, did they?
It seems like they had a hard time making shit stick. Oh, well. And then the Muslims showed up, and that stuck. So, yeah. It's pretty sticky right now. Well, that was a fascinating look into our old friends, the Manicheans.
Well, and so interesting because I had never heard of them.
Yeah.
And it seems like it was this was a major thing. This was huge.
Yeah, and whose influence it is in Buddhism, it's in Christianity, it's definitely in Islam. So isn't that wild?
There you go.
And again with Augustine, who knows how because he infused so much of what became, the Catholic Church we know, and Christianity. Hard to say how much of it, it is in that DNA. Fascinating.
All right. Thanks, Manny.
Let's move on. Let's Manny on.